Welcome, everybody, to Come Back to Love with me, Robyn Vogel, here on Dream Vision 7 Radio Network. I'm so glad you're tuning in. Thanks for coming back each week, and thanks to our new listeners for tuning in today. I'm your host, a love and intimacy coach, IFS therapist, and that's internal family systems, and the creator of Heal Your Heart. This show is a sacred space where we explore the real, raw, and beautiful journey of coming home to love, starting within ourselves and extending to the relationships we long to heal, deepen, or ignite. Each week, I'll share powerful tools, heart opening stories, and transformational insights to help you release the old patterns that keep love just out of reach and rewrite the story you truly want to live. Whether you're healing from heartbreak, feeling stuck in familiar dynamics, or simply craving deeper connection, you're in the right place. I also invite you to join me for my free 2-hour Break Your Patterns in Love class, a live, empowering experience designed to help you uncover what's really been holding you back in love and guide you toward the relationship you deeply desire. You can sign up anytime at freelove.today. Really easy to remember, freelove.today. And you can catch Come Back to Love Radio every Thursday at 1 a.m. and 1 p.m. Eastern on Dream Vision 7 Radio. Listen from your phone, in your car, online, or just ask Alexa to play Dream Vision 7 Radio. Today, I'm excited to be joined by a very special guest. This is our part two, Laura Shakun and I, and we will be talking about fierce self-compassion. Welcome, everybody, and welcome to the show. And welcome, Laura. Welcome back.
Hi, welcome. So wonderful to be here again, Robyn,
Yes,
for
I'm so
part
glad.
two.
Our
Yeah,
yeah, our first show was such a wild success. I think it
yeah,
showed up in like the top five ever, like played on the radio on this digital radio
yeah.
station that has been around for 18 years.
Woohoo!
Yeah, we had so many listeners, and that was a couple months ago. And I'm really glad that you asked and that it worked to come back for a part two because, as you said, we dove into mindful self-compassion, and of course, there's so much more.
Mhm.
And I just want to let the listeners in on our secret private conversation right before we started. You were saying that we talked about tender self-compassion, and that was incredible. I actually got
Mhm.
feedback from listeners telling
Mhm.
me how helpful the
Mhm.
exercises you shared were. And now the part two is like fierce self-compassion. I love actually both tender and fierce, but there's something about fierce self-compassion that just
Mhm.
really, really lands for me because I'm such a like a stake in the ground for love.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah,
yeah, I'm really
yeah.
looking forward to what we're gonna share today. So let's start though, because for some people, even though this is part two,
Mhm.
there are new listeners. I would encourage the new listeners today to go back into the archives on Dream Vision 7 Radio Network on the webpage and find the archive for our first session. But let's start with a little introduction of like who you are, what you're doing in the world, how you got into this amazing work.
Okay. Hi. First, I want to welcome everyone to the Compassionately Messy Humans Club. I realize I actually started this back in college with a best friend at the time, Erica. We called it the Dodo Club, and it's basically bringing compassion and warmth and some playfulness and humor to the experience of being human and the messiness and the ways that we struggle and make mistakes every day and grow from them. So it's really an attitude of friendliness towards all that. Yeah. So we're in it together. And I have my compassion. Now, I know this is mostly radio, but I do have my compassion buddy back there. His name is Snuggles, and he's a deeply compassionate friend for mine and many others, for me, as many others as well. Um, I'm a psychologist, and I've had a private practice for decades at this point. I've always cared a lot about compassion and then moved into the world of self compassion because we are in a culture that tends to have a lot of harsh inner criticism as well as external, inner and outer criticism. And self compassion is hard to come by. We tend to be much kinder to others than we are to ourselves. And I was then came upon the work of Chris Germer and Doctors Chris Germer, Dr. and Kristen Neff, who developed the Mindful Self-Compassion program, and I was really drawn to that because it was a program that really led from the heart and valued the heart space as a place to grow and gain wisdom and to really listen well to ourselves. So, so I wanted to just review a little bit for those who are new again, what self-compassion is. And so there's the informal definition as when we hurt, we treat ourselves with the same kindness and understanding we might treat a good friend. Okay. So that's the informal way of thinking about it. And it's helpful to ask oneself, frequently that question is how would I treat a friend right now? As we go through our day and have these experiences where we're hurting. For most of us, this is an aspiration, not what's happening. And we tend to, again, be kinder to others than we are to ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I sometimes think about it or talk about it as like, what would you say to a young child struggling
Yeah.
or having,
Yeah.
a crisis
Yeah.
moment
Yeah.
where we don't talk kindly to ourselves, but we would be
Right.
so kind to a young child, right? Or like you said, to
Yes.
a friend.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Or our pet.
Or
We'd
a
be
pet.
really
Yes.
kind to our kitties. I have a kitten, you might
Yes.
be hearing her. Yeah, she's very meowy. So, or our dogs. So, yes. So then there's the more formal definition of self-compassion. I'll just go over briefly, developed by Dr. Kristen Neff of the program. And so there are three parts to that: mindfulness versus over identification or self absorption that we can get into. So, mindfulness is awareness that we're hurting. So, ouch, feeling a lot of grief right now, or fear or anger, right? So, that's the first step. Okay. The second is common humanity versus isolation or loneliness. Common humanity is we're not alone. There's 6 million other people right now who are listening to Robyn's radio show. No.
Let's hope.
Yes, that's how and that it's normal and just, we're in this together. Um, and then the third component is kindness versus harsh self-criticism. And kindness, there's a lot of components to growing that muscle. Sometimes I call it the inner kindness coach of my private practice. And there's phrases and gestures and soothing touch and behavioral ways we can be kind to ourselves, whether it's walking, stretching, wrapping ourselves up in a blanket, a cup of tea. So that's kind of, there's endless possibilities there. So
Yeah, let's just hone in on the humanity just for 1 second, just
sure, yeah,
saying
yeah,
it out loud again, because
sure,
that I'm sure for you as a psychologist and for me also in my work, it's like people feel, and I know I have felt exactly
yeah,
the same, like I must be the only one who feels
I
this
know,
way. Or yeah, so I just
yeah, yes,
put out that that's
yeah,
so valuable to remember that
okay,
we all have this common experience.
yes, yes.
Yeah,
Thank you for, yeah, thank you for emphasizing that because it's the interconnection story versus a separation story,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
That we are all connected.
yeah,
Yeah. Can
yeah.
feel very holding. And some people like the image of a caring circle around them when they're suffering of their loved ones, kind of mirroring back love and care.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, yeah.
Mm, yes.
Um, so now I'm going to just briefly mention the difference between tender and fierce self-compassion, that both are really important and they complement and work together. So the tender again is the comforting, reassuring, and validating aspect of
Mhm.
self-compassion, and the fierce is protection, providing, and encouraging or motivating ourselves. Okay, so it covers a number of different areas. Um, so as so often the tender is about tending to the inner world, right? The
Mm,
inner, especially the harsh inner critical voices and wounded parts of ourselves. And sometimes, you know, that can also come from cultural influences in ways that groups are marginalized too, those messages. So the fierce compassion is more for dealing with the outer world, for standing strong, in situations where we're being disrespected currently, or saying no to shaming messages or negative messages culturally or those around us. And fierce self-compassion is also saying no, though, to the inner critical voices, or the ones that we've taken inside and maybe think are true, and also saying no to actions we might take to harm ourselves or others. Okay, so yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. And for people with identities that have been historically marginalized, fierce self-compassion also it kind of precedes the tender, like we need to feel a boundary of no and safety before we can go to the tender spaces. So I think that's important to know. Sometimes we need that first. So pure self-compassion is strong and caring. It's never aggressive or hostile. Okay. It's a kind of, in a sense, almost like a tough love directed inward and outward.
Hmm.
Okay.
It sounds like a boundary. It sounds like needing to be aware of boundaries for yourself.
Yes.
Mm.
Yes. Yes.
Resting the boundaries clearly.
Yes. That is definitely a big part of it. Exactly.
Mm.
And last time, I introduced some of the phrases for more tender self compassion and soothing touch and that kind of thing. And now I'm going to introduce more of the phrases associated and either and postures and also gestures that you can play with around the fierce self compassion. Okay.
Oh,
I
cool.
know not many are on video, so I'm going to describe and hopefully folks can follow. So the first one is, and it might be familiar to those of you who do martial arts like Tai Chi. So the first, I'll say a couple of the phrases. I'm going to stand up here, and you're welcome to if you'd like to as well. But some of the phrases about, actually, we're going to get to those later. But just take a moment and stand and put your feet perhaps like a foot and a half apart, so the knees are kind of in line with the hips. And then your hands at your side or maybe in fists, and just this stable stance with a low center of gravity. And if you want to stay in your chair, that's fine. Just sitting up straight with your hands kind of lowered, touching the chair on each side of your body. And just notice what it feels like to be in this position.
So we're kind of like in almost like a strong mountain pose for a little
Yeah,
there, yeah?
yeah, yeah. And kind of dropping low, kind of,
Mhm.
yeah. And just kind of noticing, and perhaps, Robyn, you can tell us what comes up for you when you're in this position.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about those that are listening while they're walking or while they're in the car. And so
Right,
I
yes.
guess I'll just invite, like, if you're walking, obviously, to pause and just stand and
Mhm,
like really root your feet to the earth, it
mhm,
sounds like, is what
mhm.
Laura's suggesting, and hands by the side, maybe in gentle fists. And if you're driving, then we'll invite you to wait till you're not, but also just to like gain some strength in your body, I think
Yeah,
is like the
yes,
energy I'm feeling is like
yeah,
my being is engaged rather than
yes.
just sort of reacting to whatever's around me. I'm
Mhm,
like, I'm more grounded and I
mhm,
feel more present
mhm.
in this
Yes,
stance. And I'm sitting so that I can demonstrate for those that will be sitting and listening.
great.
Um,
Mhm,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah, so often participants, like in the class, say they feel stronger or more a sense of stability,
Hmm.
yeah, or even flexibility. So we really want to encourage feeling centered and anchored in some way. Um, then we're in a stronger position to respond, either to ourselves or to others.
And
Okay.
if you step back a little bit, Laura, we can see your face. Those of you
Oh
that,
yeah, that would be good.
yeah,
Okay. Thank
but
you.
it's
Yeah.
up to you.
Yeah. No, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so here we are, strong,
Strong and
stronger,
yeah,
grounded. Yeah,
ready to go. Okay.
we go.
Okay. So that's one. And then some of the protection sort of phrases are like, I am strong, I am brave, or I can protect myself, or I can set um, healthy boundaries for myself. And some people like to adjust the phrase and make it into a prayer, but others like to start with I. So you could say, may I protect myself, or I can protect myself. So you can play with that. Um,
Mm.
so yeah, so that's some of the phrasing, and then I want to also invite you to try this gesture for protecting ourselves, which is like putting your two palms up in front of you with your elbows bent, kind of maybe sort of close in front of your face,
Palms facing
and
out.
yeah, facing outward, and then moving forward and saying no at the same time. Okay, so
Mm.
moving palms forward and out. No.
No. Mm.
Do it again. Ready? No.
No.
And a third time. Ready? No.
No.
Okay. And just notice if the energy kind of rises a little bit within you in doing that
Uh,
practice. Okay.
yeah,
Um,
that's intense. In Tantra, we talk a lot about,
oh, yeah.
consent and saying no and saying
Right.
yes. And this is a good gesture that's in addition to the saying no inside yourself, you're
Right.
doing a physical
Yes.
no with your hands out.
Yes.
That's very
Yeah.
powerful. I
Yes.
can imagine that's pretty well, we can talk about this in a moment when you're ready, but um what I'm curious what gets triggered in people because saying no is a really big deal. And
Yes,
you're
exactly.
speaking of it as being like the most loving, which is how I talk about it too, like being the most loving thing you can do for yourself. To
Absolutely.
say no when you're a no. I mean, it's so
Yes.
powerful. And then, of course, the person receiving it, I'll just drop this in.
Yes.
Um, the teaching there is to say in response, thank you for taking care of yourself. Like, thank you so
Mm,
much for taking care of
mm,
yourself and not
mm,
crossing your boundary
mm.
with me or
Yes.
as with me as witness.
Yes.
That's such a beautiful teaching
Yes.
for both people that are receiving
Yeah.
expressing and receiving the no. But I imagine like asking some people to stand with their hands out and push forward and say no, like that brings up stuff even for me as I was about to do it. I was
Right.
like, oh God, I
Yes.
don't know how comfortable I am.
Sure. Right. Yeah. And sometimes it's just like giving, trying, taking a step in that direction. And always, and this is a good time to talk about safety within, any of these practices is to, we talk in terms of the three L's, leaning in, leaning back, or letting go. So listening well to yourself is a big part of self-compassion. And, if you're feeling like, hey, I've got this, I can stay in, just lean in and stay with the practice and, grow with it. But you might want to lean back, like pause, drop the instructions, and take a breath or feel rooted on the ground. And then there's always a choice point. Choice is big. Listen in. Do I want to lean back into this practice and try again? Or maybe not. And then there's also the letting go. Like you're just clear, this is overwhelming. I'm going to step out. I'm going to go get a drink. I'm going to stretch. I'm going to completely drop the practice. So I just want to say, anything that we're doing, pay attention to the three L's. That's a deep act of self compassion. So,
So leaning in, leaning
yes,
out, or
yeah,
letting go.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. So, yes, because it can be triggering. And another position I actually like where you can, it's a little variation because you mentioned, the vulnerability that can come up too and saying no is you could have one hand on your your chest heart area and then the other one goes out with the palm facing outward and says no, oops, not mine. Okay,
Mm.
so you're kind of doing the tender and the fierce at the same time. And
Mm.
so that's another variation to play with it. Um, and I want to talk about, like you were saying about getting triggered. So, intergenerational patterns. And last time I talked about the one in my family, my personal one is about over responsibility and caregiving. Other patterns have received a lot of blame and harsh criticism, different kinds of abuse, and et cetera. So, um, so this, so boundaries are really important. And there's that famous quote I love: boundaries are the distance at which I can love you and me simultaneously,
Mm,
by Prentice Hemphill. So,
beautiful.
yeah, yeah. Um, so, so thinking about, so different ways to use this. One is, um, thinking about the inner messages and practicing the no within yourself.
Mm,
Okay, like no, not mine. Um, or if you're anticipating doing something difficult, where or engaging with someone who tends to overstep, you can kind of rehearse and get yourself kind of in gear, and say the phrases or the gestures, um, and so that gives you a chance to respond. So, and then you can also just play with it, with people in your life, or go to Robyn's tantric meetup and kind of play with that, right?
mhm,
No,
mhm.
and notice practicing with it. So, yeah. So,
Yeah. So it's really interesting. I mean, if we could just talk about it in like
sure,
real life moments, right? Because
sure,
you're
yeah,
giving us a gesture and an
yes,
embodied practice, a somatic practice to like
yeah,
embody the fierce self-compassion.
yeah.
And some people, I mean, it's interesting that the language is fierce self-compassion
Mm-hmm,
because it
mm-hmm,
reminds us that when
yeah,
we're really tending to our parts and to
yeah,
ourselves, that we're being loving and compassionate towards
right,
ourselves. But then,
yes,
of course, a lot of the times, all kinds of other parts will show up, like
yes,
guilt, right? The people pleaser
yes,
part is huge
yes,
for people. And
exactly.
we know that's
Yeah,
really an adaptation and actually not loving to be
right,
a people pleaser. It's
yeah,
actually, right? It's a strategy
right.
to get people to feel love towards
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
you.
yeah,
But so we're just thinking about everyday life, right? Like a
mm-hmm,
parent who's, with their children and the children are knocking on the door at the bathroom or they want you to do something with them and you're not available
mm-hmm,
or a partner, right? Like there's so many places in life, even work-related situations,
yeah,
where fierce self-compassion,
yeah,
fierce self-love,
mm-hmm,
I would
yeah,
say,
yeah,
um, I guess I would say where there's an opportunity
yes,
for fierce self-compassion.
yeah,
And
exactly.
how do you catch them and without putting your hand on your heart and then putting the stop sign hand
Mm-hmm,
in front of your
yes,
child, which of course you're not going to do
yes, yes,
necessarily.
yes,
Maybe you could talk about that a bit.
yeah, yeah,
And how
yeah,
does it work in terms of the practice and then the real life action,
right.
right?
Yeah, exactly. So, um, so practicing is, I mean, unless you have a really supportive partner, and you could, who's willing to practice with you,
Yeah.
that would be great, and work on boundaries between you. That's always a possibility. Some of these things, it's helpful even to have a felt sense of what it feels like. So, you know, um, so when you're actually then going into the workplace, or if it's with your child, yes, you don't want to have these kind of gestures. It could feel really off-putting, but you can kind of remember, you can kind of bring it up and remember what it feels like, to be practicing. And you can offer yourself some of the phrases that you decide kind of help you go back there, help you remember and have that felt sense. I can protect myself, or it's kind to set this boundary right now, you know. Um, and hand on heart, that's sometimes feels like a safe one, even around other people. It depends,
Yes.
so, and that can also, the tender's connected to, as you said, to the fear. So tender can help you connect with the fears too, and that it's kind to myself and the other for me to say no right now. This is not mine. Okay. This is really yours. Okay, and I'm not going to take this on.
Right.
So, yeah, yeah,
Yeah. I
yeah,
mean, we say this is really yours. I'm not going to take this on, which is like a doorway to another teaching.
yes,
Not
yes,
to go there in this moment, just
yes,
to pause that,
yes,
just knowing like what you're comfortable with and what you're not comfortable with
yes,
gives you a moment to moment decision to
yes,
love yourself
yes,
or fiercely have self-compassion for yourself, um,
yes,
but
yes,
also love yourself. Yeah. It's
yes.
interesting language. I'm curious about the fierce self-compassion
Mm, mm,
piece.
mm.
Because when we use the word self-compassion, it's like we're offering ourselves some tenderness, some love, understanding, right?
Yes,
Like, oh, I understand why you would want that
yes,
boundary.
yes,
Um,
yes,
and it also seems very just very energetically to me an act of love, pure love. Like
yeah,
compassion has
yeah.
another angle on it.
Right. I know. Yeah. And it's new learning for many of us, you know. I mean, I was not one that was ever comfortable with anger, you know. I mean, I was a people pleaser, you know, as I talked about in the first interview, and I had to learn to feel into that as an important voice
Hmm.
and part of boundary setting and kind, you know, and yeah, and you can really be in the heart and be angry, and really
Yes.
feel into the compassion of anger.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
very embodied. Yeah,
Yeah, like allowing yourself to feel anger. Well, that's huge. It's
right. Yeah,
a whole
totally.
other-
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
So
Um,
basically, I just want to kind of review for our
sure, sure.
listeners. The awareness
Yes,
is that first piece.
the first piece exactly.
Like aware,
Absolutely.
yeah, being aware like an ouch.
Yes,
Um,
yes,
I noticed an ouch yesterday,
yeah,
and I noticed that it's a repetitive ouch, and it definitely has to do with me.
yes.
And it's an interaction with a friend,
Right.
but I find it sort of unintentionally keeps sort of niggling away or poking at a wound.
Yes.
And so just beneath the surface, and I can ignore it and keep going, or the energy's there, and I'm like, okay, there's that hurt, there's that
Yes.
ouch.
Yes.
And I'll say the first piece of tender self-compassion would just be like
Mm-hmm.
my hand on my heart, like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, Robyn, I know
Mm-hmm.
where that comes from. I can understand why that feels
Yes.
ouch, why that feels ouchy, totally unintentionally from my friend towards me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, but the fierce self-compassion would be maybe setting a boundary so that the
Mm-hmm.
action that
Mm-hmm.
actually hurt me
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
in that moment unintentionally
Mm-hmm.
doesn't happen again,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Exactly. Yes. So thank you for reviewing. The first stage is awareness. Um, and then, remembering perhaps I'm not alone, feeling held. And then what is the response here? The kind response, either tender or fierce or both,
Both,
that's
yeah,
needed, often both. So,
right.
in this situation, I also want to say that sometimes people go to anger first. I just want to acknowledge that, as opposed to like, I'm more like you, and I go to ouch, hurt first, generally speaking. But some, and it's all part of being human, so go to anger first. So
Yes.
you want to notice that.
Yeah.
And then you might kind of want to put up, think of more like moving back a little bit, creating space for yourself. Um, and then, from there, perhaps the tenderness could come in. Then you could, like many call U-turn it and kind of tune in like, wow, is there anything else here in addition to the anger? I'm going to care for the anger, but there might be something else here as well, some hurt. You said the hand on the heart. And what do I need right now? So the two core questions that make it simple are what's up for me right now? That's the mindfulness. And then the second is what do I need right now, which is more of that self-compassion.
Mhm.
So both are important. Um,
Huh, great. All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break. I want to hear a
Sure.
little bit more about that when we get back.
Okay. Sounds
Welcome back, everybody, from our commercial break. We're here on Dream Vision 7 Radio. This is Come Back to Love with myself, Robyn Vogel, your host, and today, Laura Shakun, my special guest. We're talking about fierce self-compassion. And just before the break, Laura, you mentioned doing a U-turn when something happens that feels ouchy, that feels hurtful. I'd love you to repeat what that as a, because it sounds like a choice somebody could make if they remember to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the mindfulness part, right? Is the awareness that something's happens that's difficult, and then you can choose, with that, how do I want to respond, right?
Mm.
So yeah, yeah, exactly.
Got it.
So
So just say one more sentence. So what does it mean when you make a U-turn? Is it like you're getting angry and pissed off and you're going to blame someone, but you make a different choice, or what happens?
right, right. So if you get angry, you make the U-turn and you tune into what's happening right now. What's up for me around this right now,
I see.
and how can I turn towards it with compassion? Whether the tender or some of the more fierce, like set a boundary. Do I need to set a boundary right now, or do I need to step away, and come back, take a pause, go and do some breathing, take a walk, and then come back and to attend to it. So there's a lot of possibilities, a lot of choice in there, in terms of how of the response. So, but the main thing is you're not just kind of lashing out impulsively,
Mhm.
as is easy for us all to do, and we all do it. But it's really turning inward, noticing awareness, what's up for me, and what do I need right now? Asking those questions, and how can I respond with self-compassion? So,
Great. Awesome. Thank
okay,
you.
you're welcome.
Okay, you've got another tool to teach us.
Yes, yes, I have another tool to teach, and just briefly, I want to mention within the umbrella of fear, self-compassion are two other pieces. One is motivating ourselves, and the other is providing for ourselves. And there are associated phrases we can say for each of those. Like providing. I have all the courage. I have all that I need to provide for myself right now. Or I have the capacity to provide for myself well. And then motivation, or things like I have the courage and strength to make the changes I want, or you've got this, or I believe in you. And, you can play with gestures around that too, like a fist bump or thumbs up, or, that kind of thing. Celebrating with your hands over your head. um, yeah, so there's some more to play around with. You can really play with phrases, and perhaps I can send a list of tender and fierce self-compassion phrases in a PDF to you, Robyn. It's something that you can offer to folks, if that
Great.
would be
Yeah.
helpful. Okay,
Add you to
yeah.
the show. Yeah.
So so now we're going to do a practice. It's called the Fierce Friend Meditation, and it is it's a way to help you create an image of a fierce friend who embodies a caring force that you can call on whenever you need to, day to day, to protect yourself. Okay, so yeah, so let's just take a moment to find a comfortable position. It can be lying down or sitting up, and just gently closing your eyes and taking a few nice settling breaths. Just like settling into your body. Yeah. And remembering with any practice to listen well to yourself. And if it works for you, stay with it. If not, you can lean back or let go.
Mm.
Yeah. Okay, now I'd like for you to imagine yourself in a place that is safe and comfortable. It might be a cozy room with a fireplace burning, or a peaceful beach with a warm sun and a cool breeze, or a forest, a lush forest with moss that you can lie on. It also could be an imaginary place like floating clouds or anywhere you might feel peaceful and safe. Just let yourself linger and enjoy the feeling of comfort in this space.
Mm.
And soon you'll receive a visitor, a strong, powerful, but also tender and loving presence.
Mm.
Yeah. A fierce friend who embodies the quality of a caring force.
I've got one.
What image arises? This friend may remind you of someone that you've known in the past, like a courageous and protective teacher or a grandparent. They may be a figure completely from your imagination, like a warrior goddess or a spiritual teacher,
Mm.
or an animal like a jaguar or a lioness or a lion. This being may not have any particular form. It might be a felt sense. Yeah, it could be just a presence or a warm glowing light. You have a choice to go out from your safe place and meet your fierce friend, or to invite them in. It's up to you. And please take that opportunity now if you like. Imagine yourself with the visitor in just the right position that works for you, whatever feels right. Allowing yourself to experience what it's like to be in the company of this being, their bravery and determination, how loved and protected you feel. There's nothing you need to do except to experience the moment. Just taking it in. This friend is wise and sees clearly and understands exactly what's going on in your life right now.
Mm. Mm.
They see the areas where you need to be firm, to stand up for yourself, or draw boundaries.
Mm.
Your friend may want to tell you something that is just what you need to hear right now so you can protect yourself. So please take a moment and listen carefully to what this wise being might have to say, to offer you.
Mm.
Your friend may also want to give you a gift, some symbolic object that symbolizes caring force. Perhaps it materializes in your hand.
Mm.
If no words or gifts come, that's okay. Just accepting yourself as you are right now, whatever's emerging, and continuing to experience the strength, love, and protection. That's a blessing in itself.
Hmm.
And just taking a few more moments to really soak in, feel it as much as you can in the body, this being's presence, protection, and strength.
Hmm.
Letting it land.
Beautiful. All right.
And allowing yourself to realize that this fierce friend is actually a part of yourself. Yeah. All the feelings, images, and words that you are experiencing flow from your own fierce and tender heart. Yeah. And gradually, as you're ready, allowing the image to gradually dissolve in your mind's eye, and remembering that this caring force is always within you, especially when you need it the most. Yeah, you can call on it. Who are you going to call? Your fierce friend, right?
Right,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
Ghostbusters, but our fear.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So just helping yourself come back if you've engaged, wiggling and stretching and moving as you need to. Yeah,
All right, we are going to jump to your offers, Laura. That
yeah,
practice is so powerful.
yeah.
I feel like I've done it in different like formats, but
Yes,
I had a
yeah.
very interesting experience of an old partner coming in and just being so
Oh,
loving and like handing me a heart and reminding me I'm love and
oh,
felt really
yeah.
precious.
Oh,
I invite those that are listening on the radio to practice that later on tonight. You can listen to the replay or just come to the end for the last like 10 minutes and replay that exercise, that meditation
mm-hmm.
and that fierce
Yeah.
love compassion. Mm.
That's moving. I feel the heart. I feel your the offering of the heart. I feel it in my heart.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Mm. Yeah.
All right. So where can people find you that want more of
Yes.
this good stuff?
Yes. So compassiontherapy.net is my website, and that's where you can find all the offerings. I offer workshops and classes on mindful self compassion, and there'll be some more specialized ones that have to do with self compassion for shame,
Mm.
which is something I was trained in more recently. It's really powerful and deep work. If it's it takes a lot of courage and readiness, but they can be very transformational. So yeah, so
Yes.
yes,
Apply
so
to shame is powerful. Yep.
yeah, yeah, very deep work. So
Mm.
yeah, so
Compassiontherapy.net. And
yes,
then, of course, that will also be in the radio show notes. So for those of you that want
yes,
to find it in writing, you can find it there on the
great,
radio show notes on Dream Vision 7.
yes,
Otherwise,
um,
compassiontherapy.net is easy to remember.
yes, it's pretty easy, and I offer classes both in person, and I'll be starting to offer some online as well.
Great.
And I also have a private practice, and I bring all this into that as well.
And do
Um,
you see people from all over the world, like our
I
listeners?
do, I do. I'm all about telehealth now.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yes,
Awesome.
and it works
Yes.
really well. So yeah, thank
Good.
you
So
very much
those of
for
you
that.
local to the Boston area might find something in person, but those of you that are not local can definitely find something to learn this amazing practice, this
Yeah.
beautiful, loving practice.
Mm,
All about come back to love. That is for
mm,
sure.
yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Laura. It's great to have you for this part two. And we've got the beep letting us
I
know
know the
it's
beep
time.
was timed perfectly here.
Yes.
I know. Yes,
Perfect.
we can go out there and with our as messy, compassionate humans together,
Yes.
and just wish you well and growing and tender and fierce self-compassion, and
Awesome.
bringing that heart with you that Robin mentioned. I feel
Yeah.
like I'm carrying it with me now.
Good.
So, yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We'll see you next week, Thursday, 1 a.m. or 1 p.m. or both Eastern Time. Thank you for listening today, and thank you so much, Laura. Have a beautiful day, everybody.